The show.
So here's the thing. Garrett had to tell me to start before because I'm in deep dog negotiations right now.
Oh, you're doing that live right now.
I was doing that live. I was telling.
Okay.
So then, like, I sent the raw video to my wife, and she's like, "Oh, he loves you." I'm like, "Yes, he does. We had an instant connection. Don't let this dog go to another family. He belongs with us."
Don't deny me this.
Yeah.
This relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anyway, I mean, there's many steps I'd have to go through. Mostly, like, I'm gonna have to get her like a really expensive vacation.
There's a price for everything, man.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to Gatlinburg with your friends in May. No.
Doesn't count.
There needs to be a stamp on the passport to a place I've never been. Have you ever been to Greece? I guess, not that I had be against Greece, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's expensive.
That is.
So, but
the big fat Greek wedding DVD?
I'm going to do a GoFundMe for help Paul adopt a dog. It's like, why does it cost $17,000? Like, oh, that's not for the dog.
Yeah. You're like
That's just to bribe my wife.
Televangelist Paul suddenly he's going on vacation with the tides.
Yeah. Hey, listen, God said I need to save this
I'm going to
dog.
help you guys get financial freedom by buying me a jet.
Because you too can learn how to convince other people to
Yes.
buy you a jet. Yeah. So, Stephen, this week in the Big 12, we're starting to get into we had the first legit Big 12 on Big 12 action.
Mm-hmm.
We've had two others that were meh games.
Yeah.
Like Arizona and Kansas State last week was disappointing in that Arizona just and here's the thing. I do think for Arizona State in particular, I don't think this is going to affect Utah because Utah plays in Raucous Stadium all the time. But for Arizona and Arizona State in particular, now that they're not going to the Pac-12 and playing in places that are less than enthusiastic about their team compared to in Big 12 SEC country where it's all that defines us. It is our whole personality. That's tough. Like on a Friday night, Manhattan, Kansas, the first time, I didn't expect Arizona to win that game. I just thought they'd play a little bit better. But
Sure.
Kansas State really kind of, I think the way that they're going to be at the end of the year is going to really, you're going to see like, oh, I wouldn't have pegged that after watching that Tulane game. But I think they'll be very, very good.
Yeah, they dominated that from start to finish. And I can't really make sense of Arizona yet, but that was a disappointing performance for them to just not be competitive at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you really can't you can't just get past that and say, oh, well, they'll just bounce back. I mean, maybe they can, but that was a butt whooping.
Yeah, it was. It was an absolute butt whooping from it. The most interesting game to me this week is Kansas and West Virginia. The who are you game.
Yeah.
Both these teams are going to find out a lot about who they are. I'm going to pick Kansas because I think they're a little bit better. I think Smokey and Craig both picked West Virginia. Where do you land on this game?
I'll take Kansas as well. I just feel like there's more talent there, but they're struggling. What do you think of the Jeff Grimes situation right now, Paul? Like, is this just not working? It's early.
I think that was and I like Jeff Grimes a lot personally, but I think that was maybe not the best hire they could have made.
Right.
It's a step down. Andy Koldenicki is a guy whose arrows pointed up. Jeff Grimes, he wasn't. Here's the thing. That's where I was surprised. He wasn't coming back to Baylor. Like, they didn't poach him from Baylor.
Yeah.
He wasn't coming back. Andy Koldenicki got poached. Jeff Grimes didn't. I think that's where, maybe I would have made him an offensive line coach again in a heartbeat because he's really good at that. And then let him find find the new Jeff Grimes coordinator, not the old Jeff Grimes coordinator, because he's not – that offense and the personnel aren't meshing right now. Like, he's not doing the same thing.
Well, it's just not innovative. I mean, he's not a bad play caller. I think he wants to do a lot of fundamental principles, but what Kansas thrived on the last few years was a lot of misdirection and option principles, and they schemed guys open a lot. And I also think I feel like it's going to get better. You know, Jalen Daniels hasn't played in a long time. He's playing this year, but I feel like we all sort of think, oh yeah, that's the guy that was just killing Illinois a year ago and looks like maybe a Heisman candidate, and he went down with that back injury. It does take time to get back in a rhythm, and you're also talking about factoring in new offense. I like Kansas, though. I just think they're slightly better. I haven't been super impressed with West Virginia, even though I feel like the schedule's been tough. And I didn't have a lot of belief in them before the season anyway, so I'll take the Jayhawks.
Yeah, I'll take like I said, I like the Jayhawks in that one. West Virginia just not. Arizona State and Tech. Tech showed out on offense against North Texas.
Yeah, they look good.
And they look good. It's the first time they've looked good all year, though. Because I wouldn't call them looking good against Abilene Christian. I would just say that they
survived.
They survived in that game. Arizona State is scrappy, and Kenny Dillingham has built some character into that team. I don't know if they're diverse offensively enough to beat Tech, but I think it will be interesting because I think that they're there to scrap, and we'll see if Texas Tech has got a little bit of their swagger back.
Is this game in Lubbock?
Yeah, it is in Lubbock.
Yeah, I'll take Tech. I mean, I think Arizona State is pointing in the right direction, and they're better than we thought. You know, Mississippi State is obviously bad. I think we saw that last week with what they're going through in a rebuild. The Texas State win was impressive to me, but I still think it was an Arizona State team that's improved a little bit. And I feel like this is sort of a last stand for Tech in some ways. I think that offense gets going and they get the victory.
What I will say, I'll say this about their schedule. So they're at Tech, then they have Kansas after a bye, then Utah, Cincinnati, BYU, and Arizona. Like, they have, if they can find a fourth one before the end run, like if this could be their fourth one, I think there's a really good chance they can get to 6.
Yeah, I'd see that.
But their schedule is one of the tougher ones, especially when it comes to stopping offenses. Like Tech, you know, offense is not, outside of whatever happened at Wazoo, offense is probably not going to be the problem most of the time, especially like on an average day for them. They're gonna score
points.
They're going to score points. Kansas, you know, I don't think they can really hang with them, especially if they get their offense right, which I do think that Jeff Grimes is in danger of not being the play caller before. Like if they go 1-3, Jeff Grimes is not going to be calling plays in that 5th game. Like
that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's making the move like
upstairs. Yeah.
Okay.
He's making the move upstairs,
which is always a last. I mean, like that's totally a preference thing.
Yeah.
And that's definitely like hey, let's say we're making a change so that the fans will be like, oh, they're doing something.
Yeah. But now he's just going to be up here.
Right.
He's still going to be saying the same things.
Yeah.
Just further away from the head coach.
He's got a little better view, I guess.
There'll be a buffer zone between him and Lance Leipold. That's not just human shields. He can go. But Utah, not a game I think they're going to win. No. Cincinnati, winnable game. Oklahoma State, probably not a winnable game. UCF right now, and that game's on the road. Or no, that's at home. I'm sorry. That's at home. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they can hang. But again, they're scrapping BYU, and then Arizona's a rivalry game. So, you know, they've got potential to get to 6. I'd like to see them get to 6. I think that would be
a huge step forward for them.
You know, Phil Snow was with us for an hour yesterday, and if you've not seen it, like, take an hour. It was awesome. It was great. It was just so much football knowledge. I asked him, I said, is that place the Sleeping Giant it looks like? And he said, nah, you know, maybe. Like, maybe it is. And he was there when Jake Plummer, he coached Pat Tillman, you know, so he was there in the last, what I would say, glory days of the Sun Devils. Since then, it's been very spotty. But he was there, and he mentioned, like, yeah, I mean, like, they need leadership that really loves sports, which they've not really had. So we'll see. Okay, the last game we're going to talk about is Utah and Oklahoma State because that's the best game of the week. But Baylor and Colorado.
Man, what an interesting situation. I'm shocked by the amount of Baylor people that are already jumping off the DeQuan Finn bandwagon. I know it was a rough go there and at Utah, Paul, And I know Sawyer Robertson looked good last week against Air Force, but it was Air Force. I'm really surprised at how quickly they're bailing. This is a good matchup. I don't think these two great teams, but it's just a very evenly matched group. I think Baylor has enough trench play to get this victory, even with the great skill players that Colorado has. And I don't feel like Baylor's great in the trenches, but I think they're just better than Colorado.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I picked Baylor to win. Gary, did you pick Baylor to win?
Yeah, I picked Baylor 35-34.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. I think that what Colorado has that Baylor doesn't have is like superstar skill players. Mm-hmm. They have that. What Baylor might have is Army ants. Colorado doesn't have a lot of Army ants. That's what they need. And I don't think they can run the ball. And like Phil said, just make them one-dimensional. Just make them one-dimensional. Make Shadur have to beat you. And because they're not going to run the ball. They're just not. It's not something that's going to happen with them. All right, moving on. A non-conference game, TCU at SMU, Stephen. We're gonna sneak this in the middle here.
Okay, so SMU had a bye week. Mm-hmm. They also have a quarterback now. They named Kevin Jennings the starter. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to help them. Sonny has had some bad moments as TCU's coach. He has had his guys ready for this game the last 2 years. And so I think that continues. I feel like the offense has another good day. The defense does enough. I feel like TCU wins and moves to 2-0 against the ACC with those wins against famous ACC members, Stanford and SMU.
Yep. I get to go see SMU next week when they play Florida State. I hopefully 1-3 Florida State team. I have several people coming into town. John Machota and I are going to go to that game together. It's going to be Amanda's first Florida State game.
I cannot wait until ACC people go to Gerald Ford Stadium. I can't wait. I just can't wait to hear the reports. I'm just excited to hear about it.
What is your opinion of Gerald Ford Stadium?
Well, so I've heard they've made a lot of improvements.
Famous SMU graduate, Gerald Ford.
Gerald Ford.
I know that he's not.
my experience is that they're just not prepared for big-time football.
Yeah.
They're not prepared for a big-time stadium atmosphere. They run out of drinks. They have issues with, facilities. Supposedly that's been repaired over the offseason, Paul, and it's supposed to be better. But I understand why. There's a lot of articles floating around right now about people that are mad that TCU is ending the series, and I would just like them to go to Gerald Ford Stadium and understand that TCU's been playing a game there on the road every other year for the past 2 decades.
Yeah.
And think about that program and just – I think they'll understand a little bit better.
No, there's not visceral hate coming through that comment at all. That was just a normal,
normal reaction.
Gerald Ford, America's most there president.
He was a president. It's a fact.
Gerald Ford is America's also never elected to either office president. Mm-hmm. He was not elected to be vice president, and he was not elected to be president. He rose to that spot through the ineptitude of corruption in the Nixon administration. Mm-hmm. So, when you think when Gerald Ford got the call after Spiro Agnew resigned, and he was like, "Hey," Nixon's like, "Listen, Gerald, would love for you to come be the vice president of the United States," and he's like. And he would be like, why'd the last guy quit? Don't worry about it. Everything's cool here.
We're doing great.
Yeah. You talk to Ehrlichman and Dean, they'll be fine. Nothing's going on here. Nothing weird. Come on. You want to be the vice president? Everyone wants to be the vice president. Come on. You want to be the vice president? Let's do it. How was my Nixon, by the way?
That was pretty good.
Pretty good. I'm pretty good at presidential impressions. I'm pretty good at the presidents. I veer off the path when it goes into people you might actually remember.
Okay.
There's a whole generation. I could be doing that Nixon, and they'll be like, who's that? Is that like a new character?
Yeah.
So, anyway, but And he was like, because I can tell you right now, if he called me up and was like, hey, would you like to be vice president? I'd be like, nah.
It's okay.
I feel like this is going to end well. Or he was just like, oh, no, he's totally going to get caught in this Watergate stuff. And then I'll be president.
And I'll be president, yeah.
And I'll be in
That's true.
charge. But
Hey,
who knows?
it worked out.
Yeah. So.
You want to talk Tennessee, Oklahoma before we go to break
Yes,
here?
I do. I want to talk Tennessee, Oklahoma. So what do you think about Tennessee? Can Oklahoma hang?
I think they can hang. This feels, I mean, I know OU has not been impressive so far, but I think there's enough talent on this roster, and I feel like the offense gets going a little bit. Ultimately, I believe Tennessee wins. But I don't know, Paul. I've seen some chatter at like people are undervaluing Tennessee to a certain extent, and they're kind of a sleeper in the SEC. But I think this is a competitive football game in Norman for sure.
Yeah. I think it's going to be competitive. I think that there's going to be a lot of like Josh Heupel emotion going on here.
Yeah.
It's got to be so weird. Especially Josh Heupel probably feels like this should be a job that he has. Like, or there's probably part of him that thinks that, or he would love to have that job. Although, being the head coach of Tennessee when they're good is a pretty damn good job.
Pretty good job, man.
I mean, they're one of the craziest, most passionate fan bases in the country. The stadium's always full. It's a great place to play. But you're the last quarterback to win a national title there.
Mm-hmm.
You are beloved by many.
Yes.
But also, do you want to be Scott Frost?
That's true. It's a hard pressure to understand and bear.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I wonder. But I mean, again, he was coached. He coached there, all that. I do wonder.